What happens when an undercover boss, hidden in plain sight, discovers the true heart of his company lies not in boardrooms or profits, but in the compassion of one unsung hero? This is a story of humility, humanity, and the unexpected bonds that form when we step into someone else's shoes. It's a tale that reminds us that sometimes the most profound lessons come from the most ordinary moments. The story begins with a man named Darren Cole. Darren was the CEO of a large healthcare company called VitalCare. He was a man of power, influence, and wealth. But beneath his polished exterior, Darren carried a heavy burden. His company was struggling. Profits were declining, employee morale was at an all-time low, and complaints from patients were piling up. Darren knew something had to change, but he didn't know where to start. One evening, as Darren sat in his luxurious office, staring at the city lights outside his window, he made a decision. He would go undercover. He would step away from his corner office, his tailored suits, and his executive privileges. He would become an ordinary employee, working alongside his staff, to understand what was truly happening within his company. He wanted to see the world through their eyes, to feel what they felt, and to find the root of the problems that plagued VitalCare. The next morning, Darren arrived at one of VitalCare's busiest hospitals. He wore a simple uniform, his face partially hidden behind a cap and glasses. He introduced himself as Dan, a new nursing assistant. The staff welcomed him with polite smiles, but no one suspected the truth. Darren was just another face in the crowd, another pair of hands to help with the endless work. It didn't take long for Darren to realize how demanding the job was. The hours were long, the tasks were exhausting, and the emotional toll was immense. He watched as nurses rushed from room to room, tending to patients with unwavering dedication. He saw the fatigue in their eyes, the weight of their responsibilities, and yet they never complained. They simply kept going, driven by a sense of duty and compassion. Among the staff, one person stood out. His name was Elias Trent, a nurse who had been working at the hospital for over a decade. Elias was in his late 40s, with kind eyes and a gentle demeanor. He moved through the halls with a quiet confidence, always putting others before himself. Darren noticed how patients lit up when Elias entered their rooms. They trusted him, relied on him, and loved him like family. One day, Darren was assigned to work alongside Elias. They were tasked with caring for an elderly patient named Mr. Harold, who had been admitted with a severe infection. Mr. Harold was frail, his body weakened by age and illness. He was also lonely, his family living far away and unable to visit often. Darren watched as Elias sat by Mr. Harold's bedside, holding his hand and listening to his stories. Elias didn't just provide medical care, he offered companionship, comfort, and hope. "You're really good at this," Darren said, breaking the silence as they left Mr. Harold's room. Elias smiled softly. "It's not just about medicine. It's about connection. These people, they're scared, they're hurting. Sometimes all they need is someone to listen, to remind them they're not alone." Darren nodded, but inside he felt a pang of guilt. He had built his career on numbers and strategies, but he had never truly understood the human side of healthcare. Elias's words stayed with him, echoing in his mind as the days went by. As Darren continued to work undercover, he began to see the cracks in the system. He saw how overworked the staff was, how they struggled to meet the demands of their jobs with limited resources. He saw how patients suffered because of long wait times and inadequate care. And he saw how Elias, despite his own challenges, always found a way to make a difference. One evening, after a particularly grueling shift, Darren and Elias sat in the break room, sipping coffee in silence. The exhaustion was evident on both their faces, but Elias's spirit remained unbroken. "Why do you do it?" Darren asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "How do you keep going day after day when it feels like the world is against you?" Elias looked at him, his eyes filled with a quiet strength. "Because it matters. Every life we touch, every person we help, it matters. I may not have much, but I have this. And as long as I can make a difference, even in the smallest way, I'll keep going." Darren felt a lump form in his throat. He had spent his life chasing success, but Elias had something far more valuable: purpose. In that moment, Darren realized that the heart of his company wasn't in its profits or its reputation. It was in people like Elias, who gave everything they had to care for others. The days turned into weeks, and Darren's respect for Elias grew. He saw how Elias went above and beyond for his patients, often staying late to ensure they were comfortable. He saw how Elias mentored new staff, sharing his knowledge and experience with patience and kindness. And he saw how Elias carried his own burdens with grace, never letting his struggles show. But then something unexpected happened. One afternoon, as Darren and Elias were preparing to leave for the day, they received news that shook the entire hospital. A young patient, a boy named Noah, had taken a turn for the worse. His condition was critical, and the doctors weren't sure if he would make it through the night. Elias immediately sprang into action. He rushed to Noah's room, where the boy's parents sat by his bedside, their faces etched with fear and despair. Darren followed, his heart pounding in his chest. He watched as Elias knelt beside Noah, speaking to him in a calm, reassuring voice. "Hey, buddy," Elias said, his tone gentle but firm. "I know you're scared, but you're not alone. We're here with you, and we're going to fight this together. You're stronger than you think, Noah. You've got this." Noah's parents clung to Elias's words, their tears flowing freely. Darren stood in the corner, his own eyes brimming with emotion. He had never seen anything like it. In that moment, Elias wasn't just a nurse. He was a beacon of hope, a lifeline for a family on the brink of despair. Hours passed, and the tension in the room was palpable. The doctors worked tirelessly, their faces grim with concentration. Elias stayed by Noah's side, holding his hand and whispering words of encouragement. Darren watched, his heart aching with a mix of fear and admiration. Finally, as the first rays of sunlight peeked through the windows, the doctors stepped back, their expressions softening. Noah had made it through the night. His condition was still serious, but he was stable. The room erupted in relieved sobs, and Elias let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. "Thank you," Noah's mother said, her voice trembling as she embraced Elias. "Thank you for being here, for not giving up on him." Elias smiled, his own eyes glistening with tears. "It's what we do. We fight for every life, no matter how hard it gets." Darren felt a surge of emotion. He had witnessed something extraordinary, something that no boardroom meeting or financial report could ever capture. He had seen the true essence of healthcare, the power of compassion, and the impact one person could have on the lives of others. As the days went by, Darren's time undercover came to an end. He returned to his role as CEO, but he was no longer the same man. He had seen the world through the eyes of his employees, and he had been humbled by their dedication and resilience. He knew that changes needed to be made, not just for the sake of the company, but for the people who made it what it was. One of the first things Darren did was call a meeting with the hospital staff. He stood before them, his heart pounding with a mix of nerves and determination. "I want to thank you," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "for your hard work, your dedication, and your compassion. I've had the privilege of working alongside you, and I've seen firsthand the challenges you face every day. But I've also seen the incredible impact you have on the lives of your patients. You are the heart of this company, and I am committed to making sure you have the support and resources you need to continue your vital work." The room erupted in applause, but Darren's eyes sought out one person in particular. Elias stood at the back of the room, his expression a mix of surprise and gratitude. Darren walked over to him, extending his hand. "Thank you," Darren said, his voice thick with emotion, "for showing me what true leadership looks like. You've inspired me to be better, to do better." Elias shook his hand, a smile spreading across his face. "It's not about me. It's about all of us working together to make a difference." Darren nodded, his heart full. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to face it. He had learned that true success wasn't measured in dollars or accolades, but in the lives we touch and the difference we make. And so, the story of Darren Cole and Elias Trent became a testament to the power of compassion, humility, and the unexpected bonds that form when we step into someone else's shoes. It was a reminder that sometimes the most profound lessons come from the most ordinary moments, and that the true heart of any organization lies in the people who give it life. The moral of the story? Leadership isn't about power or prestige. It's about understanding, empathy, and the willingness to see the world through the eyes of others. When we lead with compassion, we create a legacy that lasts far beyond our time.